Okay, so this is Srila Prabhupada's bedroom. A few changes, not so much, but this is a deity of Lord Gauranga, and he was actually originally on the altar. But he's made out of clay, I believe. So he's very delicate, and they have a brass deity of Lord Chaitanya now. And probably in 1971 or 2, they have the brass deity. Well, the altar they have for him right now is just so sweet and simple and beautiful. And he's dressed really, really nicely. He was dressed very, very simply back then. And it just wasn't on this, the paraphernalia is a little different. This is Prabhupada's original choki, I believe. He ate prasadam on this choki. So he ate in this room, and he slept in this room. And, this chair, before they built the samadhi, the garland, which is inside the samadhi, that was here. So it was like, this was Prabhupada's samadhi until it was completed, and that was until like 1996 or something like that. So for a long time, it was like this was Prabhupada's samadhi, this was his chair, this was a palanquin I believe they used for Prabhupada, but not so often. But this is Srila Prabhupada's bed. Now, there is a definite remembrance I have of Srila Prabhupada's bed. So I'm going to go over to this side of the bed, because this is my favorite place. So in 1977, when Srila Prabhupada again came, in Mayapur in January, stayed through Gaur Purnim, but he was very sick that year. He hardly gave any classes, maybe 4. He would have disciples give Bhagavatam class. Sometimes he would just sit on the Vyasasan and give the class, but he was very sick. So after the festival, all the devotees go to Vrindavan, but Prabhupada was too sick to travel. And Madhuri Dasi and I had the service of cleaning Prabhupada's rooms. And, but Prabhupada was usually in his rooms. So if he was in the bedroom, then we'd clean the darshan room. And then would wait until he got up to go to the bathroom, or maybe he'd go sit on the veranda, then would scoot into this room, would start cleaning, and if he wanted to come back in, he would see we were cleaning and go, okay. So we were just kind of playing this type of musical chairs with Prabhupada. So this one day, we're in here cleaning. Now this rack is for the mosquito net. So the mosquito net was on, but it was kind of rolled up, so it hung, hit us a bit. So now Madhuri was Tamal Krishna Maharaj's widow, right? She was his wife, and he took sannyas. So she was not coming around very much because she wanted to, not be seen by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. But apparently Srila Prabhupada had heard that she was here. And so he came in this door from the back veranda. And he stood right here, and he's saying something. But I was not waiting to hear what he had to say. As soon as I saw Srila Prabhupada, immediately bow down and pay obeisances. And Madhuri did the same. She was standing over there where the chair is. I get up, and Srila Prabhupada saying something, and I say, what, Srila Prabhupada? And he goes, Madhuri. And she was like hiding behind the mosquito net a bit. So she walks to the end of the bed, and he walks, over here to the end of the bed. And I'm still standing over there in the corner. And the two of them talk, and he just said, how are you? Are you okay? Is everything all right? And she was so moved that he cared so much to ask how she was doing. And I know she told me afterwards that it kept her going for many, many years. So that's, whenever I come to Mayapur, I always have to go over to this special corner. There's a table here now, but it wasn't a table then. And it was winter time, so there was this wonderful blanket, that special blanket, which I don't know if they still have, if they preserved it. But it's not on now because it's hot. So I could tell you more stories about Prabhupada and Mayapur, but I think that's everything that's connected, directly connected to this room. I mean, I'd actually have to read my own book to remember some of the darshans. Oh, okay, I remember. So one thing that Srila Prabhupada had was a glass jar filled with sweets, and it was always a coconut and gur sweet. I've been begging the Mahashop to please make these sweets available because it obviously is a typical Bengali sweet. Prabhupada liked them. He would have his servant give one to every guest who came to his darshan as we were leaving. So one day, one of the little boys in the Gurukula named Krishna Das came to Prabhupada's darshan. Now he was the son of Omkara and Nirmala from France. And he would usually bring one or two of the other little boys. I mean, most of the kids in the Gurukula were the sons of the Bengali devotees who lived here. And very few Westerners. At that time, he might have been the only Westerner. He probably was like 5 only. So he would bring the other little boys. And Srila Prabhupada, I remember one time there was a guest, a Bengali guest, and Srila Prabhupada told this guest, this little boy speaks so many languages. And he speaks Bengali, he speaks English, he speaks French. And so the guests would go, really? And they would say, Tomar Nam Ki. They would ask, simple little questions. And he would answer, and they were really impressed that he could speak some Bengali. And he wouldn't stay long. And then as he would get up to leave, Prabhupada would indicate to his servant, give him a sweet. So then he and his friends would go off. But sometime later, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, he would come back, sometimes with different friends. And Prabhupada knew exactly why he was here. He wanted more sweets. And Prabhupada was totally okay with it. He didn't say anything like, when he would get up to leave again, he would tell his servant to give him another sweet. So it was really a sweet exchange. What else? Well, there's many memories I have of Prabhupada in the temple room, but let's see, darshans. I can't remember right at the moment. But since we're talking about sweets, that's why I was thinking of what happened in the temple room. So when Prabhupada arrived in 1976, that January, going back to his arrival, first of all, that was the inauguration day of the front gate. Like, there was a front gate during the Gorpurnim festival, but it wasn't completed. It wasn't painted, it just wasn't complete. But it was complete enough that there was actually a live Shania band that would sit in the little rooms up high, and at dawn would play the Shania, and the morning raga and evening raga. It wasn't a recording the way it is today; it was live. But when Prabhupada arrived in January '76, it was totally completed. They put a ribbon across. We had this big kirtan waiting for Prabhupada to arrive. And I remember really feeling like I wasn't this body. I felt like we were a group of international devotees and a lot of Bengali devotees, and it just seemed like we were beyond the body. It didn't matter what the body was. It was a really nice feeling. And then Prabhupada, when he arrived, we were so happy to see him. Somebody handed him a pair of scissors. He cut the ribbon. Everybody cheered, and we had a big, the kirtan just continued, and he walked from the front gate. There's a path, was directly to the Lotus building. And we all surrounding him and singing and dancing. The Gurukul kids especially were dancing. And he came into the temple and took darshan, and he sat on the vyasa and gave a very short arrival address. And in that address, he was saying how this is the real United Nations. And it was just, I had that feeling, like I said, like beyond the body, and what he was saying was just exactly how my experience was at that time. How we were, from all over the world, but we're united when we're chanting Hare Krishna together. And so Srila Prabhupada got into a regular routine. We had a little bit different schedule then. We would have class at 6 in the morning. Well, the first day when Prabhupada got up off the Vyasasan, he was presented with a plate of Mangalarti sweets by Janani Prabhu. So he's standing in the middle of the temple room. He probably popped a little piece in his mouth of one sweet, and then all the little Gurukula boys are surrounding him. So he starts distributing the sweets to the Gurukula boys. And the next day, the plate of Maha was presented to Srila Prabhupada before he got off the Vyasasan. Like at the end of Guru Puja, I think the schedule was we had class at 6, then we had the greeting of the deities, then we had Guru Puja. And so that all happened after Guru Puja. But then he brought him earlier, so he was still on the Vyasasan. The kirtan was still going. He brings a plate of Mangalarti sweets. And then the boys kind of orderly start filing up and holding out their hand to Srila Prabhupada. And he'd give them a piece, and he'd break the sweets into many pieces so that everybody got some. And if there was any left over, then the men would come forward and he would give sweets. And on many occasions, he still would have enough. There was only like 6, sometimes 7 Western women. The Bengali ladies, most of them, unfortunately, weren't able to concentrate on japa. So Srila Prabhupada said their japa is service, and they would go to the big kitchen and they would do service. So they weren't there for the second part of the morning program. But there was, a few of us Western ladies, a few little girls, maybe 3 or 4 little girls. And it was really special to get that sweet from Prabhupada. He wouldn't just drop it in your hand. He would press it into your palm. And the little girls would, also go before the ladies. So sometimes he would run out, but the little girls would break their little tiny piece into smaller pieces and give it to us ladies so that we would always actually end up getting something. So that became a really wonderful part of the morning program. We also would sing Udila Arna every morning. I think it was before Bhagavatam class. We just sing it in Bengali. And so one of the funny things that happened was we would make the garlands for the deities on the morning. They still do that in the morning. Before the deities address, we're making the garlands. Of course, it was only original Radha Madhava who are on the altar now. The smaller deities who are on the altar are the original Radha Madhava. Now, they seemed way bigger. They were on a platform. It was a big silver lotus. Radharani's skirts were way longer. They really seemed a lot bigger. But there was only garlands for them, Lord Chaitanya, and Srila Prabhupada's garlands. So it wasn't like all the ladies had to make the garlands, but the little girls would go out and pick the flowers in the morning, and then the garlands are made. So the little girls had some extra petals, and they used to sprinkle them on Srila Prabhupada's shoes, which would be by the exit. And so, after the whole morning program was over, Prabhupada would go to the door, put on his shoes, his servant would help him put on his shoes, like hold them so he could slip his foot inside. And then they would go up the stairs to his quarters here. So this one morning, the little girls said to us, ladies, watch what happens today. Really stay right there and look at Srila Prabhupada. So we watched, and Srila Prabhupada put on his shoes, and he started walking, and normally the petals that they had sprinkled on his shoes would fall off. Well, this day they didn't. And he starts walking, and he looks down at his feet, and there was flowers on his toes, and he would shake his foot, then he would shake his other foot. And it was a little garland of flowers, and they had tied it around the toe of his shoe. But he was laughing, and we were all watching this, and we were all laughing, and it was like so nice to be in on this joke with Srila Prabhupada. He thought it was really funny. What else happened? Of course, Srila Prabhupada, in '76, he was giving class every day. I'm not a particularly philosophical person. I can't say that I remember the points that he made. All I know is his classes always made me feel like, yes, I am glad I joined the Hare Krishna movement. This is where I want to be. Always had that feeling of, reconfirmed commitment, reconfirmed confidence that this is the right path, and, hope that we'd all, be able to go back to Godhead and so on. I do remember during the festival of the Gorpurnim festival of '75, how Prabhupada was lecturing on the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. I just remember he was reading from that part of the Bhagavatam, but I don't remember the specific points. But one thing is that Pishima wanted to go to his Bhagavatam lectures, and she didn't speak any English. She spoke 2 words, water and wash. She could also count from 1 to 10, but it sounded like 1 word. So she, wouldn't understand a word, but she would sit there, and we just appreciated seeing her there, knowing that she wasn't understanding, but it's very hard to listen to a whole lecture in a foreign language. She would nod off sometimes a little bit, but just to see her there was wonderful. And the same thing here in Prabhupada's rooms, that he was mostly speaking in English. But she just wanted to be near her brother. Okay, in relation to Pishima, there was a few pastimes that involved Srila Prabhupada directly. One was that she wanted to cook for Srila Prabhupada. And he wasn't well enough to eat a lot of oil, and what she would cook was with mustard oil. Because when she would arrive in Mayapur, because she came in '76 and I got to be her servant, and so when she came in '77, she immediately asked for me. I thought, let somebody else have the mercy, but she wanted me. So both years, when she would arrive, she would get somebody to go down to the Ganga and fill up a big jug, and she had a smaller jug of Ganga Jal, and she would use it, refill, keep on refilling the smaller jug. And she would sprinkle water on everybody's bead bag, on people, douse me from head to toe with Ganga Jal. She would throw water just on things that she saw was contaminated. She would wash the floor in the temple room after she got up sitting. So it was just something I always had to carry with me. Wherever she went, the Ganga Jal came. Now the jar of mustard oil was another item she would get. A pretty big jar of mustard oil, and we kept it in the room we were staying until she was ready to use it, right? So Palika had told her that she couldn't cook for Srila Prabhupada, and she was really upset. She was so upset that she had to speak to Prabhupada personally about it. She couldn't wait to darshan even. And she was elderly. She was 3 years younger than Prabhupada, and she was late 70s at this time. And she was also overweight. She was a really good cook and liked to eat. Prabhupada used to laugh about how she was overweight. And she was not in good health. So it was very difficult for her to climb upstairs. But that day that she wanted to talk to Prabhupada, he was having his massage on the roof. And we were staying on the first floor. And she climbed up all those stairs. She had to get my help, and it was a very slow process. She'd hold onto the banister with one hand, hold on to me with the other hand, and we would go up the steps. We got to the top of the steps, and I just stayed there. I could see Srila Prabhupada sitting out in the sun, like glistening in the sun with his oil on his body, just wearing a gamsha. His servant was there, Srila Prabhupada, and wearing gamsha. And Pishima went out to speak to him. So I don't know what they said. It was in Bengali. But she seemed to be satisfied. And more than likely, he said, okay, you can cook for me. I'll let you know when. Because she just waited until the day that she got word that she could cook an evening meal for Srila Prabhupada. And he didn't always eat in the evening. If he got something, it was light, like puffies, and it wasn't a whole meal. It was just a snack, really. So that day, she got some plantain, kach kela in Bengali, and she cooked a sabji using mustard oil. And it was given to Srila Prabhupada. She wasn't around when Prabhupada's Mahaprasadam came back, but this must have been 1977, because I was in the deity kitchen, and the little offshoot of that room was kind of the Prabhupada's kitchen. And so the Maha came back there and really didn't look like he had eaten anything. Maybe he tasted it, but it was hard to tell if there was anything missing. And somehow, whenever there's Mahaprasadam, it seems like everybody shows up. But this particular day, there was nobody around. We were just cleaning the kitchen after the last offering, and the kitchen was right below Prabhupada's rooms, which is now a VIP room. So we could have had as much of that maha as we wanted. It was so full of mustard oil that we could not eat it. We didn't grow up eating mustard oil. So we had to give it away to the men who were doing the 24-hour kirtan in the temple. They got the mercy that day. Actually, Prabhupada's maha was really sought after. And one time I got some datta, those long, stringy vegetable. And you can't chew it up. You have to just chew it till you got the inside part of it, and you have to spit out the stringy part. And so I got a wad of that, and I was in bliss. I figured it was full of Prabhupada's saliva, and I was thinking, whatever disease, quote unquote disease he has, it's that he's addicted to Krishna. And I wanted that disease. I've heard about devotees eating the whole orange rind when they got a piece of orange from Prabhupada. So, Prabhupada did hear how devotees were being picky about his maha, and he did at one point instruct them to merge it all. I don't know if they merge sweet and salty. I don't remember that. I see that they do that sometimes here. I don't remember that exactly, but yeah, maha was a maha prasadam was highly sought after. Palika came one of those years, to cook for Prabhupada. And she would make, she sometimes would try out different recipes that she had just learned. Like she would stay at life members' houses in Calcutta and learn specific recipes. And then like she made fresh pea kachoris for Prabhupada. And since she was right in the next room, okay, I guess it was 77, because that's the year I was cooking, telling Vrindavan Biharini and I, Vrindavan Biharini was actually the cook, and I was her assistant. But at one point she was in the hospital for a few months, so I had to take over. But when Prabhupada was there, she was there, and she was in total communication with us about what she was doing, and you know, bringing it up to Prabhupada, and then telling us if Prabhupada liked it, and he really liked the kachoris. He really did, you know, I'd always shared with us how as a child he liked kachoris, how he would buy them from the vendors on the street, put them in his pockets of his vest, and his mother would make kachoris for him. And, you know, he really liked kachoris. So, of course, he liked those kachoris and asked for more, which fortunately she had made enough to give him more. Also, I'm just thinking of Palika. It was Palika who found out what Pishima's actual name is. Pishima just means the aunt, the father's sister. We didn't know that. We thought that was her name. So one day, he called Palika in to give her some instruction, and he refers to somebody named Baba Tarini. And she goes, "Who's Srila Prabhupada?" Because he does have a disciple named Baba Tarini, but she wasn't here. So she didn't know who he was talking about. So he goes, "Baba Tarini, my sister." Oh, that's her name. So she comes running down to the kitchen and she tells us, "I just found out what Pishima's name is." Of course, we never had asked us. We just assumed that was her name, you know. We found out that was her name. We knew that she was initiated by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. She didn't get second initiation, and I never heard this story directly from her, but we heard it indirectly, and it came from Prabhupada, that she was being interviewed by him for second initiation, and he was asking if she followed the four regular principles. And she goes, "Yes." And then she voluntarily offered the information that her husband didn't. It isn't that Bhaktisiddhanta asked. She just said it. And therefore he didn't give her second initiation. And not long after he left his body, and so she took second initiation from Bhakti Saranga Thakur, or Maharaj, Bhakti Saranga Maharaj, one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. So if anybody says that it's not usual for women to get second initiation, well, she almost got it from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and she definitely got it from Prabhupada's godbrother. She identified with the devotees in his mat as her godbrothers and godsisters. It seemed that she identified more, and maybe it was out of humility that she didn't want to go around saying, "Oh yeah, I'm actually initiated by Bhaktisiddhanta." But Prabhupada told us, she's not only my sister, she's my godsister. And she would go to the mat, which is just one of those mats, just when you're coming out the front gate, you turn left. It's one of the mats towards the ghat there.